This is Mitalee Agrawal, Public Relations Officer at IIT Hyderabad, and your host and host for IITH Hum. And as you know, we are running with our season 1 hashtag Alumni Diary. And today, this Sunday, we are back with a very special episode, episode 8, Live Locally and Grow Globally. And we'll come to know that why we are talking about this with our very special alumni and guest of today, Dr. R Sai Chandra Teja. Dr. Sai is MTech 2012 pass out from Microelectronics and VLSI from Department of Electrical Engineering. Currently, Dr. Sai is serving as a Chief Operating Officer for a special semiconductor startup, Green PMU Semi Private Limited, and also he is serving as President of IIT Hyderabad Alumni Association for the tenure 2021 to 23, and we don't know on a public choice if it extends further. So without taking much time of yours, I request Dr. Sai to enlighten us with something more whereabouts about his life. Dr. Sai, please.
Thank you, Mitalee. Thanks for the opportunity. So I'm Sai Chandra Teja. I've mostly grown up in Hyderabad. I did my schooling at Hyderabad, and I've done my undergraduation from JNT College of Engineering, Pulivendla, where incidentally I was the first batch to begin with. So there is a recurring point in my life where I've been most of the experimental batch across everything. So by bachelor's, I was JNT Pulivendla, and I was not a topper at any point of time across my whole journey until PhD. Then I did my master's from IIT Hyderabad, where we are second batch of masters. And I was selected for the first batch of friendship scholarship to pursue PhD at Osaka University, Japan. And I was also one of the few first batch Indians to join Toshiba R&D and in Japan. So when I say one of the few Indians without knowing the language Japanese, so predominantly the R&D work is predominantly in Japanese language, but without knowing Japanese language, I was lucky enough to enter Toshiba, and I was working there for 4 to 5 years. And I was more passionate about doing something on my own. So that is when I came back to the roots. So that's why I'm now living locally in India, pursuing entrepreneurship with my startup Green PMU Semi Private Limited. And during my stint in Japan, I was fortunate to have much larger global experience visiting countries like UK, Indonesia, China for different conferences, workshops. So that's when I said, after growing globally, I'm coming back to live locally and make an impact globally with my startup. That is the current state at which I am in.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Sai, and I think so as we share a kind of a friendly note, maybe I can, for convenience, can call you Sai. So Sai, thanks a lot. Now we obviously it expand why we terming this episode as live locally. You told because you are here, so live locally and grow globally, which is obviously very significantly emphasizing that where everyone is looking for a job in US, UK, Canada to live a life in a one movie I recall, Vision Manga, someone said that to live a life later days in a developed nation. So it is like people, the young, energetic mind like you who bring the energy to the country of their origin and believe that, okay, you should work here and grow not only yourself and also grow your nation. So a commendable job and kudos to you for taking the decision. Thanks a lot for that. And we know that you were there in IIT Hyderabad. So as I always ask, so what made you to come to IIT Hyderabad in year 2010, which it was in a very formative years and recently we have celebrated our decimal base. So now everyone has a lot of confidence because of the people like you who has invested your trust in those early days. So what was the reason behind to come to IIT Hyderabad? Though there is a reason you are local, but still.
So initially the thought process of during my BTech, since I was the first batch, you get an opportunity to lay the stones, do the experiments, challenge different things. So that is one thing which during my 4 years of undergraduation, I was very much fortunate to kind of engage in different activities where you can lead the activities. Since you're the first batch, whatever you do, that becomes a benchmark. There is not always like a right or wrong. There is no direction. So you are, it's an open platform where to whatever extent possible you can utilize, you can use that. So one of the motivation being the second generation IIT, I was not contemplating in a way to what extent we can utilize a brand, but it's always on the individual basis. IIT is a brand in itself, but to what extent you can utilize that to build your own self is what I was vouching on. Before coming to IIT, I was predominantly focusing on making, learning different things, engaging in different activities at IIT beyond academics. Was one of the major motivations because during my undergraduation days, I visited IIT for some technical fests, and I very much liked the aura at
You meant to say
IIT,
the Elan?
similar to Elan,
Okay.
or I was when I was there in IIT Madras. I was also during intra IIT. The aura during the games was very different. Being a sportsman myself, I always wanted to kind of be there and play rather than watching it. So the moment I entered IIT Hyderabad, my focus was to kind of be a part of intra IIT from day one. And I was one of the few MTech players to kind of play intra IIT.
So you mean to say in some of the like Bollywood movies they say that or it usually happen people take a sports scholarship and join very prestigious institute. So the reason behind you coming to IIT Hyderabad was your sports instinct, which was compelling you to come to IIT Hyderabad. So Sai, as we understand that sports brought you to the IIT Hyderabad. So other than sports. So you are a VLSI engineer and you are very much in semiconductor. So obviously you have some affection towards some of the subjects of electronics. So would like to know what are your favorites and maybe non-favorite subjects from the domain.
So actually, I was not inclined towards software coding, although most of the people were inclined towards going to IT background. But I was fascinated about circuits, most of the circuits, embedded systems, seeing some kind of a hardware. You're like a mechanical engineer, right? Where I wanted to open the electrical transformer things, try to test the voltages, is there a shock and stuff like that. That fascinates me more. So that made me choose microelectronics and VLSI because sometimes what fascinates is if you look at how our telephone changed. Previously, the communication telephone was the size of a room. Then it was a calling big phone with a bigger wire, and there are a lot of wirings which are involved. Then there is a common telephone. Then it was a mobile phone. So electronics were going small and small. And VLSI is all about making things much, much smaller with a bigger performance. That's when I thought maybe that fascinates me more. So I was trying to kind of learn more about circuits and how these are built. The functionality of a very small chip which drives a system it's kind of very intriguing in a way for an engineer, because if you look at a large motors, the motors run and there is a significant impact on the result of it. But a smaller size chip which is actually driving a bigger system used to fascinate me a lot. So that's the difference between electrical engineering and electronics engineering. Electrical engineering work at higher voltages like power generators, bigger things. Electronics are working on very minute micro nano scale regions, but the impact is way more bigger. So that used to fascinate me. So that's the reason I was most involved into microelectronics, VLSI, design of chips, and try to contribute into a better performing chips in a way. That used to fascinate me a lot.
So we know the reason why the Green PMU is there in the existence. And when you were talking, I was just recollecting my minor and major project because I have done my BTech and Masters in Electronics and Communication. Though, as you said, I was not into too much of coding, so I went even away from that. I chose digital electronics, and I started my career with the teaching. So I used to teach basic electronics and digital electronics. So it was a kind of a nostalgic to hear those cheap. I can visualize those boards and those circuiting and all, those etching and all. So really, it is amazing, and I think it is a right platform to bring the India Semicon mission where India is going in a larger way to work and promote the semiconductor industry. And IIT Hyderabad is obviously, as always, stay relevant. We have if I go in a chronological order from the latest, we have launched one BTech program in IC design, and we have launched even an MTech program which is unique into the electronic packaging. I'm sure the people like you are aware of that. And obviously we already have a strong base of all this chip designing, being our head of electrical engineering, Professor Shiv Govind Singh, coming up with a special chip during a COVID time for a testing. So obviously there's a wonderful ecosystem of electronic engineering exists in IIT. Though we do not have a discipline of electronic engineering, I think so now everything is even getting more focused or miniaturized in your language, that now we are not talking about electronics which was earlier talked, now we are talking about even packaging. even though circuit and chip designing in detail, even talking towards the practicality and the working on the field knowledge. So now, as we know that you have inclination towards the circuitry, electronic circuitry, and you were into the sports. So obviously, other than all this work which you would have done in 2 year at IT Hyderabad during your MTech, what other activities you were involved? Maybe in sports you can talk about your favorite sports, or other than sports also, if something you have enjoyed on campus, you can talk about it.
So frankly, when I entered IIT, I was mostly focusing on, as I said, wanted to go to intra-IIT, but then I realized there is a CGPA requirement for intra-IIT.
Oh,
So
I'm not aware of that.
my goal of academics is to kind of clear that requirement to participate in intra-IIT. And then other than that, as I said, I was also wanting to kind of explore myself and challenge myself in organizing events. So I became Biggies coordinator. So we are MTech second batch, but Elan started 1 year back before that in 2011. And then most of the MTechs were not involved. So I myself went to the Elan committee and said, I'm very much interested to become a coordinator. So I'm the first MTech coordinator for Biggies. So then we
What is
got this.
biggest?
Biggies is the event of Elan where we get outside performers to come. Now they have grown so much to have this bands coming and perform the fashion ramp walk which is there. So that used to be the biggest part of Elan.
Okay.
Morning all are the technical or the other cultural events, and the evening it's more about some band performances. So during our time, we had this Havikaro band from UK. So they came in. That was the first time a hip hop band. So they did this fusion of traditional Indian and UK hip hop. It was the first time they were at IIT Hyderabad in ODF campus, and we also had a sand art which was there. So this we have coordinated. So I wanted to learn this. I was the first MTech coordinator to be involved in Elan. And along with that, we were the first to start basketball league during that time. I'm a basketball player. Due to my height, I was actually originally a volleyball player during undergraduation. For basketball, there were few people, so I was asked to go to basketball and contribute there. In that way, I play both the sports. But at IIT Hyderabad, I was MTech PhD team volleyball player, MTech PhD team basketball player, MTech PhD team cricket player. I am the football goalkeeper of the MTech PhD team. I was a badminton doubles partner for the best player of MTech PhD, TT doubles partner for the best player of MTech PhD. So I enjoy playing sports. I'm not good. I'm jack of all trades, but master of none. But I'm very much practiced a lot of basketball. But I'm a partner, not a bad partner for the best player. So I always play with the best player so that we have a possibility of winning the games. That's where I learned teamwork and most of the realization of the research work also, how important it is for you to understand and work together so that then you'll grow in a much way better fashion is what I feel. And games has helped me a lot to nurture my personality.
So thanks a lot. I think so you have answered both the questions that other than sports, what you did, and in sports, I think so you have covered almost all the sports we have at IT Hyderabad, and I think so you use that one metaphor which say that jack of all and master of nothing. Even I'm one of the candidate of that category. But I think so as a manager, like now you're a chief manager, I can say as a chief operating officer of an organization, you need to be like jack of all to clear to support your team. And I think so appropriately has come to the sports, instead of saying I think the jack of all, he should be called as all-rounder. So that is maybe the right the definition of your sports career at IIT Hyderabad. So were you given any kind of a special training? If we come back to your semiconductor journey, I guess. So were involved in some kind of a specialized training or mentoring by someone at IIT Hyderabad? You recall any professor who is given you some special insight in the domain?
So of course, I mean, I was fortunate to have mentorship from a project by Professor Shiv Govind Singh and Professor Ashudev Datta, so whom I'm also working now with my own startup. So the first time problem solving, how do you define a problem, right? So it's not about solving the problem. So you define a problem in research is a major part. The 60% of any project is defining the problem correctly. Solving it is a different issue, but if the problem is not clear, kind of we kind of hesitate, or we think there is a problem has to be a problem to all. If I say, okay, I have a problem due to heat, but it not be relevant to all the people, or it not be relevant to the other countries in a way. But in research in electronics, when I say I want to just miniaturize this device, But at the same time, miniaturizing only might not help it. You have to miniaturize it in a way it could give high performance. Just because I have to miniaturize without any high performance, there is no meaning to do that. So in that way, a meaningful problem, to recognize a problem, was a training which I got from these professors. So the research is the inclination towards research has been improved a lot during my stay at IIT Hyderabad, because the whole of my MTech projects, the initial 4 to 5 months, we were only struggling to define the problem. We know there is a problem, but what exactly is the problem out of the biggest problem scope is what took a lot of time. And I was fortunate enough to also have a research publication. So solving a problem could be one thing, but after solving a problem, expressing that in a scientific terms is again a different, genre altogether, or a different skill altogether, which has to be nurtured. Because when I say there is a problem and I've solved it, it has to be understandable to all the research community. That is a contribution which you have to make to the research community. So now translating this problem and the solution into scientific terms, which is relevant and which is understandable, easily understandable to the people, was a training which I felt was very, very hard during initial stages. Because I assume it is clear, this is a problem, this is a solution, and it is fine. This is what I want to say. But people want to look at
Dot
it
to
like a
dot.
story. Yeah, then there is no end to end. Like, you have to build a story around it. So, okay, this is a device, there is a need for this. So for that need, I'm proposing this solution, which has these features, but also it might have shortcomings in it. It has a scope of improvement. To best of our knowledge, we try to solve this problem, and it's open challenge in itself. If somebody else can improve it, that's the way. There's a story for any research. That is what I've learned in IIT. So that is what has motivated me to pursue PhD. So problem solution in itself is a greater, journey. It's a journey in a way. So every problem, every paper was a journey. So first paper, when I had it at my master's, one of the few students had publication at that time. So when I had a publication, I was so into it. I was like, okay, I want to do more of problem solving. So that's when I wanted to pursue research, and let's go to PhD to do more of problem solving and more contribution to the research in a way. So that motivated me to pursue PhD.
So obviously, I'm sure these are the very critical for anyone to live a life, even to know defining the problem. And I'm going to use as one of the special note from this episode, because people usually focus on problem itself, right? So the problem is not a problem. Defining problem is a problem. So very nice thought and take on that. So how you feel this particular training, which you is more of a behavioral training, is helping you in your current role?
Yes, like I said, so this was a behavioral training which I had in India. Now I went to Japan, I had a lot of cultural shocks. And then Japanese people, the understanding is different, the thought process is different. So now how do you kind of manage different thought processes or understand different thought processes? So that was a major challenge during my, stint in Japan. So I was fortunate enough to have good mentors. So who nurtured me professionally, saying, so whenever there is a task, so in everybody, we have tasks, day-to-day tasks. Then we struggle to kind of prioritize the tasks. We struggle to kind of manage the task parallelly. So how do you manage things effectively? Or, how do you take tasks in a priority basis, not taking stress, not affecting your, mental health conditions in a way. So I had good mentors who helped me to prioritize the tasks around us, then have a good balance. Even if you kind of work 10 hours, 12 hours a day, at the end of the day, you are one of around 10,000 employees in the whole company who are contributing. So you have to kind of make it a point saying whatever time you have to kind of make sure you are living it good so you feel good about it. You take a lot of stress about work, but at the end of the day, you're not happy, then again, it will come back to us. So I had good training, behavioral training of problem solving, identifying a problem. Now cracking a problem takes a lot of stress in itself, right? Once you have the problem, you find a solution, it's a different. So we don't stress about the problem. We always focus on what we can do and make sure we move one step closer to the solution is what I carry on my day-to-day basis, and not take too much of stress focusing on the problem.
Thanks a lot. And nowadays, people stress a lot and take a stress on I have a problem in my life or my life is a problem. So, you've given a lot of wonderful messages and insight to us on how not to take problems seriously or stress upon a problem. So, what one liner you would like to give to your fellow juniors and the IITH mate here?
So it's don't stress on the problem. Let's focus on moving one step ahead. It's always one step. take the first step. That will lead to the second step. We need not take leaps, jumps, but let's focus on taking that one step.
So now, as we visited a lot of memory of yours, all your behavioral training and other trainings at IT Hyderabad. So, what is the one special moment? If I have to ask you to rate your best moment at IT Hyderabad, so what that will be?
So one of the best moment is during my intra-IIT at IIT Delhi. So we were playing with IIT Indore. This was our first match, first basketball match of IIT Hyderabad versus IIT Indore. And during the first 2 minutes, in the second minute, we had a free throw, and I was taking the free throw, and I was under a huge amount of stress. This was my first time playing and representing IIT Hyderabad in a bigger stage, and it is very very competitive. Intra-IIT, one thing which the thrill of being competitive on the field and playing and representing your own institute takes a lot of pride. No, I was taking until the moment of taking the free throw, I was playing. But that second or the 2-3 seconds where you get to think, that was very, very critical. And I still think, I was just looking at the ring with ball in my hand. I was thinking, and a lot of shouting around because there's a lot of encouragement with all the other groups which was happening. And in that noise, I wanted to focus on getting into the ring. I missed the first shot. Okay. When I missed the first shot, IIT Hyderabad sound has reduced. Now, IIT Indore people have started shouting too much. Now, at that moment, as I said, detached from the problem. I said, let's forget, even if we get the shot, we don't get the shot, I'll try to translate the next shot, is what I thought, and I took very freely. The second shot came in, and then, IIT Hyderabad people went crazy. And I was thinking, it was just a first point, right? It was just 1 point, and people went nuts. So that was one thing which was really, really good. So a message there was, see, a very first shot in our first game gave a lot of ecstasy to the people around. Everybody was very happy because that was our first game, first match, first goal. And seeing everybody else happy made, it wanted us to kind of perform way better. So that is one thing which we feel, right? It's always not about achieving myself. But when due to our own actions, if somebody else is feeling very, very happy, it actually gives you a lot more sense of happiness for your own self and will push you more to perform better. So that is something we want to create and I want to carry out in my life, saying impacting much more lives better rather than improving my own self and reaching.
Really, it is amazing. It is just not, I think, a basket in IT Daily. I think so. It is like a lot of basketing of memories for you. So now coming towards the end of our session. We all know you how wonderful you are in connecting the people. And IIT Hyderabad was having an eye to recognize that through the first set of alumni award and giving you a special award under the alumni connection for the wonderful work you have done to bring all the alumni together in the Japan. So that was one incident. Then now currently are serving as a president of IIT Hyderabad Alumni Association, and we all has witnessed a lot of amazing initiative the association has taken, not only for the alumni but across the IIT Hyderabad and otherwise across the country and the globally. And the one of your very successful summit, the first of its kind on this decennial based celebration, you have started the 10 on 10 and you have appreciated the 10 very wonderful alumni of IIT Hyderabad. So there are very amazing work has been done where you have played quite a pivotal role. So how you how you feel about it and what is your take on that?
So after being in India, right, I was mostly focusing on, individual improvement, training, learning different things. I went to Japan and I realized the power of network. So network is something which you are proud of. Like if you go to Ivy League, everybody is proud of being associated to Ivy League. So that is a part. And being in Japan, everybody takes pride of being associated to some companies. So that thing is little was missing in India. So one thing which I wanted all the students to learn is to kind of have a global network, have a network of great mentors, have a network of people whom we get inspired to, have a network of people whom we can just share, or have a network of good friends. It need not be always a professional background. Have a network of good friends. Have a network of good sports people whom you can hang out with. Have a network of great mentors. Have a network of some people who are great at their art. So it's kind of a brainer for you, no brainer for you. Just enjoy, appreciate everybody else and learn from them. So then while I went to Japan, I was very much fascinated with this. And then that is when I've started a lot of initiatives to kind of network, starting with our own institute. The identity of you will be defined by your place or where you have studied. So easiest thing to do was where you have studied, and that those are the people who are making greater strides in Japan. So I wanted to get inspired, learn from a lot of IIT Hyderabad alumni. So we have taken a lot of initiatives to kind of being the first batch. We wanted to make sure the journey of my juniors and the learnings, the difficulties which we had faced, we did not want them to kind of rerun and reinvent the cycle again. So we wanted to share that as a motivation. We had great people like Mahendra, Mohit, who were my batchmates. So we wanted to kind of contribute again. So
I
that's
think
when
both
we
of you
kind
has
of.
been appreciated. The last year, Mahendra was
Yes.
appreciated for the alumni relation that way.
Yes. So with these great people, that's where we kind of inspire each other and try to contribute in our free time. And we got together alumni in IIT Hyderabad in Japan. We have represented at Embassy of India in Japan. We have represented IIT Hyderabad in different events. So that is a pride which we kind of associate to. Those were recognized. And once I came back to India, again I was detached because I created a network in Japan. I came back to India and it was all alone in a way. So that's the reason. One of the motivations to become alumni association president was to kind of get myself into the network. So bring myself, put myself into the network, and there are a lot of inspirational stories after becoming alumni association president, which I hear. Then I thought, if there are a lot of inspirational stories which I know, this has to be kind of sent across. Good things have to be shared in a loud voice, although the
I'm making
improvements
an
can be
attempt.
shared.
I'm making attempt through this season, dedicating entirely to you all, wonderful alumni of IT Hyderabad, through the alumni diary.
So the stories have to be said because in my life I've been inspired by a lot of people and a lot of mentors and a lot of comments from them. Because when you see people who have struggled a lot, and you are in a good place, it's your responsibility to kind of make sure you contribute the same thing back to the society. So in that way, when I came back, these inspirational stories is something which we wanted to kind of share it across the world. That is where we initiated this 10 on 10. And with my great team, with my vice presidents, Nitin, Pratyusha, and all the organizers of the event who came in and helped lended a hand on it to kind of translate this idea. And we are very, very proud of all the visionaries, while we call them, because the main focus of this award was not celebrating success, but celebrating the potential of success. These are the future visionaries who could potentially change the world, or potentially change and contribute to the world. So that was the thought process which we put in. Or else, most of the places it is success that is celebrated. We wanted to be offbeat because we want to be pioneer in it. So we wanted to kind of celebrate also failures, because failure people are also, this could be the change of life change, because they impact a lot more larger crowd than the people who can impact with the success. So that is something which we wanted to kind of bring in, the idea of 10 on 10, and with a great team we were able to kind of pull that through, and we are happy that it has created its own mark.
Oh, thanks a lot for that. And recently, one of our alumni has been even featured in Times of India, his story. It
Yes.
all happened, the story can only feature thanks to your 10 on 10. So, commendable efforts, and thanks a lot for that. And the same thing we are trying to build through this idea of bringing motivation from IT Hyderabad was there in a long time in my head. And as I shared during the alumni day, as we're talking about the failure, my two attempt to take two story, maybe I don't know, nothing wrong to reveal here. The initially was to talk about the woman, and then later to the international connect, and then thanks to the this year alumni award, and maybe the good support of people like you around, because we are connected. At least since my inception in IT Hyderabad, I felt like I think so. This is I don't know to say the easy one for every episode. Obviously, then I had to do a little bit of planning, as we said, defining my episodes and all that. What will make impact? What should come after that? And obviously, there's already great works are there. People like you are doing a fantabulous job. So I thought this is the right platform, and as we were talking before episode, that to be Atmanirbhar. So this is a platform. I thought thanks to the COVID, we know this tool of Webex and all, but we never explored. And especially we are recording this video on Webex, being we are on the same campus. So this is the beauty of a virtual world. Obviously, the connect of a personal thing cannot be detained. Recently, the director visited Tokyo. That is one of the highlight, and obviously one of the remark I have mentioned on the social media India, that people meeting the director, they felt like they're meeting someone at home. So it feel very nostalgic and all that. And since we emphasize a lot on networking and on a power of networking, I don't know if it is appropriate to say you can be brand as a Shosa Sai. I can say that way. I don't know if someone ever called you with this name, like how Mika Singh was said one, the flying Singh and all that. Similar way, maybe with your social instinct that you want to help people, you want to connect people for the good of overall society. Maybe you can think of writing yourself as a social science, which is like very similar to the social science and all. So coming to the last, you are like in a blood and DNA of IT Hyderabad, not because of what I already share. You're involved in lot of, one way like in IT Hyderabad, you're a brand ambassador of Japan, and in Japan, you're a brand ambassador of IT Hyderabad. I think so, nothing wrong in saying that. So, what do you think IT Hyderabad should improve upon?
One thing is to kind of have these networking opportunities to the students. So when a student comes to IIT, we kind of feel, engaging in different activities. From my own personal experience, I was thinking this was the scope. Well, there is a bigger scope beyond that, which we can explore and kind of make sure it could impact. Like for me, my first international journey was Japan. I advocate strongly for Japan because Japan has nurtured my professional journey and the personality which I have today. It had a stronger role along with the training which I had at IIT Hyderabad. So I'm very passionate about promoting Japan and good things about Japan. So every place has its own challenges with language, with the barriers and everything. But promoting Japan was one way because it has helped
That
me
way, we have a challenge in India also.
build a stronger network.
Okay.
And then taking that first step to build the network should be the message to IIT.
So then obviously the last question was that being a proud alumni of IT Hyderabad, you are anyhow I think your contributions are I think I can say that 200 or 300% that you are contributing a lot to IT Hyderabad. So what way you think so you can further help to the IT Hyderabad?
So I want to kind of make sure how IIT Hyderabad has given me an opportunity to go to Japan, and that has built my career now. I want more students of IIT Hyderabad to experience this because I was not expecting that much of a shift in personality with this global experience. So while I want to contribute in a way which can enhance, help students know about Japan, advocate about opportunities in Japan, and make sure take that entrepreneurship by sharing my journey in itself and helping take any step for them, because the only person who can believe that should be us to begin with. And I can say I believe in anyone who I don't know also, because it's something which comes naturally. Most of the time belief can change most of the things. Belief can be the only thing which could teach you many things. Belief can be only thing which could help you kind of survive in difficult times. So that is something in which I want to kind of contribute to IIT Hyderabad in helping students with the opportunities of Japan, advocating strong partnerships with Japanese counterparts with the network which I have built, and help students know about the challenges in entrepreneurship journey in any way possible.
I was saying you're not wrong. I should say you are the true ambassador of Japan in I not say IT Hyderabad in India. And I'm sure similar way you will help us creating a brand of IT Hyderabad. And as today also morning you are reiterating with the director that we expand IT Hyderabad as inventing innovating technology, which all says, but we have one special element called for humanity. And the people like you are serving wonderfully to the humanity, and great regard for that. And please continue doing this good work, and the very wonderful message you have given us, that live locally and grow globally. When everyone is pushing towards that, we should go towards a developed nation, and you are giving a strong message that we should be in a country. And today morning I was reading our honorable finance minister was giving statistics that we are going to have a good GDP growth for the financial year 2024. And now obviously I think so the reason behind are the warriors like you who are investing your talent and life into I should say the nowadays the spirit of startup, which we are talking in India and Startup India, Semiconductor India. There's a lot of things are there, all with S, and we are having you with the S, as I said, social side. So it was a great experience, Sai, to meet you today. It has always be like that. And thanks a lot for joining us today, sharing us all this thing. I'm sure many people who don't know Japan will fall in love listening, I think, so your words about Japan. So do continue your good work. And I'm sure the sky is the limit for you to create your brand and help us creating a brand IIT Hyderabad. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Sai.